And welcome to the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club, to our monthly finals for February. What a fantastic February we have had, and in our fabulous racing, it has taken us all the way to the 26th of February. We have just had an astoundingly aggressive and fantastically absorbing women's race in the amazing world of Arabia. And it's been an absolute pleasure putting words to the action already. My name's Matt Payne. I'm bringing you all of our race action here today. And I'm joined in the studio by Emma Martin. Emma, a great women's race on a very similar course to the men's in terms of profile, because it has that big kick at the end. Are you expecting the same type of racing today?
Oh, it's a really good question, Matt. I'm not going to give anything away around the women's race because I'm sure our viewers will want to watch it if they have not already seen it, and it is definitely one worth watching. I'm expecting some really great racing on this course today. It is a fantastic course in Arabia, and it is going to, I think, give some outstanding racing. So we have 45 kilometres of racing today with an elevation of 997 metres. And yes, that is a hot category climb at the end where the checkered flag will come for our riders. It is a 15-kilometre climb at the end today. And that climb has 835 metres of the total climbing today. It's got an average gradient of 5.5%, but there will be steeper sections. And it does indeed mean that there's only 150 metres of climbing until we get to 31 kilometres where that final climb starts. So a very gently rolling course today, with one small climb before we get to 31 kilometres and that 15k climb.
It's going to be really interesting, isn't it? Because there's a little kicker before it, but mostly it's flat, fast running. So staying in the group is going to be key. Well, the first riders who are going to be trying that out are Category 4 riders on the right-hand side of your screen. So Category 1 in yellow, 2 in green, 3 in blue are Category 4 riders in the red. And as you can see, time gaps between all of our riders, 5 minutes between 3 and 4, the first 2 ways away. So these are our Category 4 competitors. There's some interesting riders in here in our teams. Well, our teams are with us today: the Red Lions, the Global Team, and the CM Team, and a real mix of riders as well.
Oh, there are indeed. So 14 riders on the start sheets today, and I think it's going to be a right good battle between the global team and the Red Lions today. Both teams with some really strong riders.
That was almost Northern. Right, good. It's
I
going to be a
know.
right good battle. I think, you know what? The Category 4 riders never failed to impress by the fact that they just absolutely give it everything. And I'm sure that they are in an absolute state afterwards. And the team competition, of course, is with prizes, because we are in our finals. And of course, for our Category 4 riders, just like 3, 2, and 1, the top 5 teams in there, top 5 teams will get prizes, top 3 riders in each team. So our riders are just about all lined up, ready to go. We are into the final few moments now for our Category 4 riders.
So as our Category 4 riders line up, and the power goes down for the start of the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club February final as these riders move out on to the course. Now, 8 of today's 14 starters have indeed taken top 5 positions this month, so expecting this Category 4 race to be fast and furious. And we can see a strong start stretching out that group already, and really creating some momentum and movement and high pace over the bridge today.
So Category 4 out and away, heading in through these very lush the sections of the course. Some great greenery surrounding the route before they go into town and in through the skyscrapers, in through these familiar landmarks to anybody who's been out and about in the United Arab Emirates, and very familiar to the riders in the UAE Men's Tour that is on to its Queen stage today. It's going to be a fantastic race to watch, and I know once we finish covering this, we're going to go and do exactly the same. We're going to be watching the racing from the UAE Tour as well. Great to see the riders in action here and going through very similar terrain as they're going to find, particularly with that big climb at the end. But Category 4 setting off together, and at the moment, nobody breaking clear and looking like they are going to be winding up reasonably steadily here, Emma.
Yeah, and this pack all together, a little stretched, but they are all together with Goldburn in there. Suarez is in here. Kamesh is in here. These riders moving through and around this pack really quickly here. So the names changing constantly on that graphic on the right-hand side of the screen. But you can see on the top right-hand corner of your screen, the blob really tight across the road, indicating that the riders are all moving strongly at a very similar pace.
And for those of you who have maybe not been with us before and seen the screens that we have, well, top left-hand side, that is the rider stats. So that is the rider speed, the power in green if they're in the draft, in black if they're out of the draft, the time they've been riding, the pedal cadence, the revs, the heart rate, the watts per kilo, the distance they've covered. All top left-hand side. Top right-hand side shows you the map view in a very much like a sat-nav would give you in that 3D view, just scrolling its way around. In the middle of that group is the dots that are the riders. The largest dot is the rider we're following. All looks like one, a surefire indicator that all the riders are all together. When it's strung out, it'd be a long line of dots. The line below, the thin white line, that is the course profile. Our rider's position indicated by that green arrow, and you'll see that they're heading in towards the climb. So essential information up on the screens for all of our riders that we're following. When they are highlighted in red, they are the riders that we're featuring. Category 1, 2, 3 and 4 all on your screens at the moment, with Category 4 away and riding, making the way through, currently about to hit the 1.9 kilometer marker. Our Category 3 riders, they're waiting down in those pens. They're on 1 minute 40 to their race start, and this is the critical time for them to be all lined up and ready to go. Our Category 3, again, some great teams in here. So we have the UAE Road Warriors, so the Turkish team Vicious Cycle as well. And they are 3 of our teams here today, along with Team Strikers, the Cannibal team, and the Battlers. The Battlers and Team Strikers, the more regular of those teams, but we will see who is going to come out top of those team standings. And for me, this is a really interesting added dynamic. When we go to the finals, Emma, Category 3, with those team competitions and with those team standings, it does change the racing a little bit, but our riders, well, they're more than up to the challenge.
Yeah, they are indeed. So 29 starters on the sheets today for Category 3 alongside those 6 teams. Now, what is really interesting, Matt, is that the top 3 from the January final in Category 3 have all progressed to Category 2. So we're going to see some new names on the top this month.
Well, going to be interesting. That progression, all part of racing here on MyWhoosh. So Category 4 in red, out and riding underway. Category 3, just under 30 seconds to go. Over 10 minutes to Category 2 and nearly 15 minutes, well, over 15 minutes to Category 1. Plenty of time for them to make their last minute adjustments, get warmed up, ready to go, but no more warm-up required for Category 3. So Category 3 riders all lined up and ready to go, and here we go. This start is critical. Category 3 away here on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. They're off from the start line. All of the riders out from the pen smoothly and taking the 2 left-hand turns to go across this wooden walkway, and then they hit the course proper, and we will see them turn in towards town. They take this right-hand turn. This is the leaders, and this looks like a quick start to me. There's some big watts being kicked out here in our Category 3 competition.
There's some big watts being kicked out, and there's some big gaps already in this field. As our camera shot shows us, it's not just that chase group behind. There's another group even further behind that, as Mendoza and Soberg and Dadson, Eckersley and Gill are the ones to push on at the front here, and that push on the front just keeps coming, because unlike that Category 4 pack, who were a big tight blob across the road, this blue pack are strung out.
They are indeed. We saw them all get away, but the moment that they hit the ball, they really stretched on those corners, and some very familiar names who it should be no surprise to see going on the offensive early. People like Phillips, people like Dadson, they are regularly up the road. Mendoza, one of the riders who moved up from Category 4 to Category 3, another of those riders who we are seeing really pushing on at the front. Martinoli in this mix, Cusimano in here as well, Schoberg in here, Eckersley, Duque. I tell you something, it is a who's who at the front, and this could be a very early selection. Total number of riders in this race field, Emma, it was just less than 30, wasn't it?
It was indeed. So 29 riders in this race field, and you can see some real stretching going on very early.
I think there's less than 20 in this leading group, so we maybe have already seen 2/3 of the field go down. In fact, I think this might be closer to 10 or 12 riders. I think Emma's doing the some very quick counting up here, but it's certainly going to be the case that there's been a very early selection made out from the pens in Category 3, and this is going to put people in trouble. Now, remember, of course, getting in the rise is important. There is a need to be in there. So, Emma, what's your reckoning in that group? Now, was I closer with my 10 or was I closer with my 20?
Somewhere pretty much in the middle, Matt. I'm counting around 14, 15 riders in that group now. So pretty much 50% of the race field gone already within 2 kilometres.
And that's our Category 3 who are on the left of your screen. On the right-hand side, you have the leaders on the road. 4.5 kilometres coming up for the riders in Category 4 in the red. 1.7 covered for Category 3 in the blue. And the riders on the right-hand side of your screen, still a nice big group moving well together. And if you look at these speeds, they're both on the flat on 0%, but the higher speed was with Category 4, who were pushing on rather than Category 3. It's Category 3, another move being made. That was an attack off the front. I'm not sure, though, that they are going to continue with this. It looks like they've eased back off again. And now we see a counter move over the top. Dadson has got over the top. I think that was Parisi who went harder than eased off. It may well be that he's had a mechanical on the bike. If you sprint on your turbo, jam the chain or break the chain, very easy to lose that. But now Dadson is left on his own, and he's been chased at the moment. So looks like he has got company on its way.
Yeah, indeed, he's getting company and closing that gap down, but the move is not coming from behind, you know, but now Martinoli comes towards the front of the pack behind and pushes on the chase that wasn't coming, so the group now quickly responding, and I think this is going to be closed down.
Well, De Manuhan is the rider at the moment on the front. De Manuhan currently leading out from Dadson and Martinoli. Duque, Cusimano are chasing. And I think De Manuhan didn't want to let Dadson down the road. Dadson's reputation precedes him as going on the attack. Oh. And I think if you want to flag up that you are a regular attacker, just do what Dadson does. Go on the offensive every single race.
Yeah, he does indeed. And unfortunately for Dadson, he often gets caught in the latter stages of the racing. I am often willing, I know I shouldn't do from a commentary position, but I am often willing him to make it to the finish line in first place, but Dadson hasn't managed that this month. In fact, 5th position has been his best placing this month, so always one to watch in terms of early attacks and being out the front early. One day, you know, Matt, it's going to stick.
Do you know what? We'll have a little party in the studio here when it does, because we love aggressive racing. It's really simple. It doesn't matter who you are. We don't actually have favourites. We just love people who are prepared to have a go and give it something on the front, try and break up the racing, take something different into the racing, and maybe try different tactics, because you don't know until you try it. Now, De Manuhan at the moment leading in the Category 3 left-hand side in the blue. That gap at the moment is not huge. You can see the chasing group at the moment are still working well together. Right hand side of your screen, this is our Category 4 riders. They're the furthest down the course. They're at 6 kilometers covered, which means that they've gone in and into segment number 2. Each of the segments are discrete segments, so they're timed from the start of the segment to the end of the segment only. and that will give us a clear indication of who is travelling well. We're just waiting to see what those time gaps are between those riders and who's pushing on. It's a real good indicator. At the moment, pushing on is Dominion, isn't it? And he's looking good.
Yeah, he is indeed. And do you know what? There's no response coming from behind. 2.5 watts per kilo is the pace on the front of the chase pack, whilst Demanian is pushing on at 4 watts per kilo at the moment. So I think that gap is going to go slowly out unless this group behind responds. So gap currently at 6 seconds.
And it's a long way to go, 45k in total. This group has only done 4k.
Well, they've also only done 8 meters of climbing so far. They've got another 989 meters to go.
Ouch. There's no other word for it but ouch. But putting in an attack early, making everybody else work, can not just make life easier for you because you've got a little bit more sliding room, you can also make everybody else work, but it depends on how you play that out. So category 4, bottom right hand side of your screen, leading on the road, approaching 7k, just over 4 kilometers covered for category 3, bottom left hand side, 0 for category 2 and 1, and it's category 2 who will be our next riders to go. And this is a big race, category number 2, and lots of teams, lots of riders in category 2, and one of the categories I think that really is the proving ground for category 1. We know that the elites are up in category 1, but category 2 has got that aggressive group of riders. But look at category 4, all over the road, another big push, and this is because we are hitting the first of those rises. So there was a little dip, and now this is a slightly longer run in through the desert, and as you can see, it looks to me like Goldborn is the rider who is just in front. They keep attacking each other, and it is splitting this group. There are 2 distinct bunches on the road now. They were one group, they are now split into 2. Are we seeing the selection, the first of the selections being made? Look at the gap that has opened up, Emma.
Yeah, it's a massive stretch, isn't it? And Goldburn is on there, Suarez, Finati, Cabanata is on there as well as other riders too, such as Acevedo, another good rider too, and really almost, well, not almost, they have indeed snapped that category 4 pack in too.
So let's jump across from category 4 to category number 2, our next starters, and jump in with our teams. The UAE Falcons, they're always on our start list. They always mix it up. We've got the Mischiefs who are looking to take that racing to them, the PKT training team, and of course Hubbards, another of our real regular teams on board. They are fantastic teams, but they're joined by the Horsemen, Fat and Furious, Draft and Columbra, and anybody who writes in or sends us social media messages saying that Fat and Furious was named after me is probably correct, to be honest, apart from it's not named after me, but it's definitely very accurate, unlike our riders who are all lean mean racing machines. Emma, pick out your key riders in there as well as let us know how big this race field is, because I've said it's huge.
There's 31 riders on the start sheets today with those 8 teams, and I think this is going to be a really interesting race today. So Fat and Furious have had a 3rd and a 5th this month. The Horsemen have been very, very dominant, but this has been a changing category this month, because not only have we had category 3 riders come up, we've had category 2 riders, for example Sprat, move into the category 1 race.
So our category 2 rider is going to be the next group to set off from the start.
So we are in with Bruno Simeo as we are awaiting the start of the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club February final for these category 2 men. And under the start banner they go. The power is down, the riders are moving, and one large group of riders are transitioning on to the race field out of the start pens. So as Simeo, Milano, Ospina, Moreno, Stretting, Acker, Cadiz all move towards the front of this pack, this category 2 field is stretching across the water here, across this wooden bridge, and a little push coming on at the front to ensure the pack stays at a high pace.
These riders, the big pack, are really getting out pretty much together. Interesting that Hassan Al-Remethri leading this group away with Aka in there. Simeo, another rider who we've seen time and time up at the front with Balthazar, Mancini, Moreno. It really is a who's who of racing in this category on MyWhoosh. Tom Gates in this group, Restrepo in there. Really interesting watching these riders coming through. We're in with Hassan Al-Remethri at the moment, a really experienced rider and a rider who we know can climb. He's good on time trial climbs rather than necessarily the stepped kicky type climbs. How do you think he's going to get on this climb, Emma?
Well, I think if Arametri is with the leading group in category 2, when we get to the bottom of that climb at 31 kilometres, he's going to stand a really good chance today, because you are right, Matt. It is a steady climb that Arametri is really strong at. And at 15 kilometres of climbing here, I think he could be one to watch.
Well, one to watch is definitely Demanuela, who's gone off the front. He's being chased by the group on your screen. This is the chasing group in our category 3 competition. The lead is well, it's not huge. It's 7 seconds still, but he's been out there a long time. A reminder, he went clear, if my memory serves me correctly, at about 3 kilometers down the road. He's now heading up for the 7.5K marker, and at the moment he's done that solo effort. Cusimano and Dadson look like they could well come across here on this climb, and this climb out really is one of those tough sections of the course where those riders know that if they put the power down and they are able to stretch a gap, they may well just really open this back up again. But we don't have a major kick coming up after this for quite a way. We have the small hill that precedes the main climb. I say a small hill, it's a pretty big climb. It takes us up into our underwater tunnels and our oasis in the middle of those tunnels with its knife edge top. But the riders take a left-hand turn here, and this, instead of taking them into the tunnels, will drop them back down through the desert, and it's basically a flat run round all the way back to where they've just come and done that left-hand turn. So our category 2, 3 and 4 riders underway. Great aggressive riding in categories 4, with the leader at the moment, Novello, down the road. Can our category 4 riders who are in the lead on the road be matched by category 1? They're lined up, and we're now into the last 1 minute and 28 seconds even. Wow, moving quickly. Some great teams in here. Now, of those teams, the UAE clan team are always the team that everybody wants to beat because they're so dominant, and it's often the way. People like to knock people off that top spot, but they have been really good. The Swedish Candy Canes and the Sticky Bun Club are improving week on week. Will it be their turn at the top? Will they be the confectionery of choice for our race winners? The Italian gelatos, the cookies, and the Belgian waffles also in the mix in our category 1 competition, and quite a lot of individual riders in this race field, Emma, and it's our biggest race field, isn't it?
It is indeed. So 38 riders will take to the start line in those yellow jerseys today, alongside those 6 teams. And yes, I think so, Matt. Belgian waffles, Italian gelato, UAE clan team. It's going to be a really interesting race today with the Sticky Bun Club in there, the Swedish. Yeah, it's a really packed field today. So really looking forward to this racing.
So our riders, as you can see, category 4 in red, category 3 in blue, category 2 in the green away. Our next race start will be category number 1, who are waiting to go. So here on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club, it is our February finals. The kick from the line goes, and away go the riders. We're in with Bart van den Eekhout as we make our turns away from those pens, and already we are starting to see riders in trouble being distanced. Massive kick from the start in category 1, with everybody wanting to lead this out. But look at the gap. You can just see SS having to do the chase here, as Mr. X100, I think, has gone down the road. The road captain for the UAE clan team, he's gone out of the gun really fast. He's shot down the road.
He's been watching Philip Graves because normally it's Graves who goes out from the gun, but X100 has decided he is not waiting for the final climb today. He is going out and he's going out hard. Alfib is following Safrazad, Popovic, Nair, Clark, Martins, Murphy, Paniza. Vujasin, Biarhead, Fawcett, who's been racing really strongly this month. It is a stacked field in this Category 1 race today.
And it's great to see a lot of the riders in this race field, as we saw in the women's race, coming back from duty at the Esports World Championships, the UCI Esports World Championships, coming back in and racing back on their favourite Sunday platform. That is the Sunday Race Club. We've got people like Lucas Zanaska, Michael Knudsen, Vajasin in here. I mean, people who have given it everything over the last few weeks. They're back once again, and now we're going to see them fighting not just for the individual prizes, but also for those team prizes. And the top Category 1 team, it's 50,000 UAD. That is Durham. That is a monster prize for the team, particularly as if you're going to win the team prize, the odds are you're going to be in the top 5 as well.
Yeah, and it's a 10,000 prize fund for the first placed individual rider as well in Category 1. And I tell you what, Matt, these riders are well and truly on form because, as you mentioned, this month hosted the World Esports Championships, and a number of these riders in this Category 1 race represented their country in that competition. So riders really on form here, and we've seen that over the last few weeks. Martins has been having great racing on this platform on the Sunday Race Club. Vujasin has been riding strongly, and for me it's fantastic to see Nicholas Spratt, one of the riders who has progressed from Category 2 to Category 1 this month, well and truly in this leading pack.
And it shows how competitive Category 2 is, because Category 2, he was up there. He was right at the top, but it was not easy in Category 2. He moved up, and I did wonder whether he was going to have a really hard time in Category 1. And yes, it's taken a little bit of time. He's up against the best riders in the world, but is really in the mix, and it's great to see this race field moving out, heading at pace. But we're seeing riders who've moved from the various categories moving up and through, progressing through, and able to fight it out. So 4 categories on your screen, all our categories away. Category 1 at 2 kilometers, Category 2 at 5 kilometers, Category 3 at 11 kilometers, and at Category 4, well, they are at 13 kilometers. So 2 kilometers separating 3 and 4. I will be able to say this without making a stumble honest. And then it's 6k between Category 3 and 2, and then 3k between Categories 2 and 1. My brain doesn't do maths and talking necessarily at the same time.
But that larger gap between Category 2 and Category 3 is due to the timings of the race starts. So 5 minutes separating Category 3 and 4, 10 minutes separating, I'm doing it now, separating 2 and 3, and 5 minutes separating 1 and 2.
Well, we have a pretty long day in the studio here today, because of course we've just been covering the women's race on MyWhoosh. Don't forget, if you want to get notified whenever we go live on the MyWhoosh YouTube channel, not just with the Sunday Race Club, but some great features in from the various teams that are supported by MyWhoosh. That's men's and women's teams. Some great events within the United Arab Emirates. Then make sure you subscribe, tick that box, get in there. Make sure whilst you're on there, you're on the MyWhoosh Instagram feed and all the social media feeds. You can see them at the bottom of your screen regularly. Don't forget, whilst you're on there, at Biking Emma and at Matt Fixer Payne, or at Full Speed Events. We are your commentary team here for the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. We're backed up by a fantastic team in the studios at MyWhoosh, who are making sure that we can keep all these images and bring you all the best action from 4 races simultaneously out on the course, each of our men's and women's races. So 8 race categories in total. So we need to keep refueled as well as our riders, and fueling up is key for the riders, isn't it, as well? We're here with hydro tabs and in the water bottles, being keen bike riders. We know what we're doing when it comes to the hydration and the refueling. I've been doing this quite a long time. I'm pretty good, but not as good as these guys, because they've got to get their fueling right, because they've got to peak at the end for a massive climb.
Yeah, and what you must remember, Matt, is these riders are racing all over the world. For some of these, it will be 40 degrees. For others, 25. For others, -3. So they are all over the world in all different conditions, and their strategies for fueling, etc., will all be different depending upon the conditions in which they're racing. So at the moment, we're seeing Al Thebe here just moving at the back of this group, but Knudsen, Bjarhead, Graves, Storger, is the rider who is distanced here. So we've now got some riders distanced off of this group, and we are now being able to show you the fastest riders through the first of our 7 segments today. So this is a 1 kilometre segment, and it is indeed the Category 1 riders who are the fastest through this segment at 1 minute 28. Van den Eckhart, Bjorklund, Simmons, Panizza, Orja, Murphy, Vujasin, Maglio, Van Elst, and Bjarhead, the top 10 riders through, all within half a second of each other. So this Category 1 pack moving swiftly through the first segment. It is indeed Category 2 who are the next fastest group of riders coming through this.
So 2 riders just starting to move up the road. You let Emma do a deep dive into those stats from the first segment here, whilst we look at the racing, and all of a sudden this gang have all decided, well, do you know what? Let's start mixing this up. You're seeing the moves on the front here as people start to try and break this down. And it's very dangerous at bringing everybody in. If you distance somebody from a big pack out of the back, they will be in trouble and they will lose a lot of time, and they might have to work the entire climb to get that back, if they can get back at all. But you have to make the break early on. So we're at 5k. That means if you can gap somebody now, they have got what is going to be a best part of about 30k before they've got a chance to climb back in, if they're a good climber. So if you can break somebody now, good chances you can leave them behind. If you leave them in only the last few kilometers prior to the climb, then they're not going to lose as much time coming into that climb. So really important to put it in hard early. Rakad Al Thebe, one of our individual riders, looking to stretch this out. We know he can climb as well. He's not just a flatland rider, and he's the rider on the front of Category 1 who is trying to stretch this out. Phil Graves is with him, and it looks sort of like Stefan van Eest in here, SS in this pack as well, and they are closing down on the rest of these riders who've been distanced from their respective category leads. But remember, of course, Category 1 is by no means all together. We're already seeing riders off the back of this group. But interestingly, as the pressure goes on, Johan Noren, Saeed Safrazad, all moving up. Interesting to see we've got Colby Price in here today. Martin Martin's moving his way up near the front of that pack. Mr. X100 in there as well. And in fact, one of the things I noticed on our last segment, Emma, no surprises, Mr. X100 was the rider with the lowest heart rate. In fact, he was in double digits, not triple digits, because he has got an incredibly low heart rate of somebody who's incredibly fit, as you'd expect, but it is low.
Yeah, and heart rates differ, though. Heart rates are very, very personal. And
big heart.
Well, and for some riders, 165 might be absolutely about to hit the red, whereas for others, it will be about 202.
Was that from personal experience there, Emma?
It's highly variable. Now, I hit the red when I get to about 184, but most riders will know exactly where their limits are and exactly where their red line is and where to sit and where to not move into. And those are very personal, but you are quite right. 131 watching X100 at the moment. We know that is quite comfortable for him, dropping quite rapidly here, so quite a steady pace. Now, 24 riders in this group, Matt.
There are 24 riders, and in this group of riders, some of them will be able to go into the red zone once for a long way very deep, or only once at the end of a long hard effort. Other riders will be able to go into the red zone regularly, so they could put in 10, 11, 12 sections of sprint sessions in there effectively, or big effort sessions, and then go clear. really interesting to see how these different physiologies and how these riders ride and how they then play it out tactically. One rider who we know is going to be in the mix, James Krasnich here, who is riding in category 2, another of our aggressive riders who's gone over the top of the climb and he's now into this descent, and he's pushing on this descent because he wants to see if he can distance anybody on the back of that group who can't make contact. He knows he's likely to be caught, but by pushing, he's encouraging the pack to chase him and distance anybody at the back of the group.
And it's a really interesting tactic, isn't it? And we do see it quite often from our racers. Rather than taking what would normally be expected, a micro rest on a downhill section and getting your heart rate down and getting a little bit of recovery, riders have really worked that actually if you attack on a downhill when the pack are not expecting it, those seconds do go out.
They do indeed. So the leading group on category 1 is currently on its way up onto the climb and making the way up and through and taking that left-hand turn. So as they go left here, it means they've got a loop to do before they go on to the next big climb. There is one big climb before the final climb. It's more of a hill than a mountain, but it is still a separator. As we see Mr. X100 on the front here, he's just keeping this pace high here. I think he doesn't want to let it regroup. He's also looking strong today. We know he knows how to peak for a big final. We see it month in, month out. Also, of course, he's a rider who can use the momentum and use the dynamics of the game really well.
Well, and the other thing to factor in, Matt, is that because it is the monthly final, team tactics really come into play today. And the UAE clan team are a really strong team. They've got Michael Knudsen, Saeed Safrazad, Mr. X100, Pablo Popovic and SS in there, all absolutely class riders in their own right, which enables them to utilise different riders for different tactics to play a really strong team game.
I tell you something, I really love to have in. We've got multiple things coming in already simultaneously, but I'd like to add another one in. I'd like to have a little fly on the wall microphone just stuck on the inside of the UAE clan team's Discord channel where they're talking to each other about what they're doing in their tactics on the way through, when they're going to push, when they're going to chase, who's going to go, because the teams, of course, are putting in a lot of work beforehand in terms of tactics of what they're going to do, where they're going to go, who's feeling strong, who's on a good part of the race, who's having a bad part, who's going as well as expected. And that communication is key. Now, if you're not a regular on gaming or on esports, you won't know that Discord is the channel these teams are talking to each other on. So when you're looking at the results that we're seeing now, and we're seeing Rakad Al Thib 2 seconds clear on that segment, the rest of the teams will be looking at that and comparing that.
Yeah, but Al Thib is 2 seconds clear of a category 3 rider, Matt. So the fastest time going to Al Thib, but 2 seconds back is Kuzmano, who is attacking off of that category 3 race field. Then it is the rest of the category 1 pack with Knudsen, Simmons, Vujassin, Martins, Bjorklund, Nair, Van Elst, Safrazad and SS. And then Nicholas Spratt as well, who is, although it says a green jersey there, he has indeed been moved up from category 2 to category 1 this month. So he is part and parcel of that category 1 race field.
So we're seeing Rakad Al Thib continuing to push home at this attack. He is now at 6 seconds clear, and Saeed Safrazad, one of that UAE clan team, are revolving around the front. Pablo Popovic, his teammate, is in the chase as well. They will know Rakad Al Thib regularly is up and in the mix at the moment, though. Al Thib, Maglio, Knudsen, Vujassin, they're all rolling around in that pack. Lucas and Asker. I mean, when you talk about esports or world championships, you talk about riders who have been at the top of esports for a long time. Lucas and Asker is a name that rings out time and time again. If you listen to the Nowhere Fast podcast or similar, you have a real regular name. His name pops up like Zach Nair, who we see on the platform. He's a regular rider who knows how to ride MyWhoosh and really, really can put it to him.
Yeah, but Matt, that category 1 pack is full of riders like that. You know, Vujassin, Knudsen, Martin, Van den Eckhart. You know, I could just keep going and going and going. Noren is in there, Bjorklund, Bjarhead. You know, it is a to that Category 1 field. Now, Thebe at the moment is absolutely pushing on. It's SS, Sprat, Popovic in the chase behind with Zanaska and Martins, etc. But Al Thebe is really taking this race to that Category 1 race field today.
So our riders up and racing. Massive prize money at stake today on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. One rider clear at the front. Rakad Al Thebe riding as an individual, so he has only got the individual prize pot he can access. Remember, if you want to be in with a chance of a team prize, you need to have at least 3 riders finish, and it's the team with the fastest combined time for their 3 fastest riders who will take away the top prize. 50,000 UAD. That is Durham on the way through. I'll let you do your own conversion to whichever currency you operate in, because of course we have riders from around the globe, whether it is from Europe or whether it is from the Americas, whether that's North America or South American continents, whether you are based over in Oceania or over on the far side of Asia. So many riders. Now through we go, the end of this segment. Let's have a look at the details. I think Emma will be diving deep into the numbers.
We are indeed. So segment 3 is a 1 kilometre segment, and Al Thebe has gone through there the fastest on that attack off that Category 1 race field, so 3 seconds quicker than the rest of the chasing pack behind, with Panizza, Simmons, X100, Zanaska and Fawcett moving through there, and that pack really quick moving through segment number 3. Now, if we take a little scroll down there, we can confirm that there are 24 riders in that leading pack in that Category 1 race field. And do you know what? It's the Category 4 race field, Matt, that is moving the next fastest through that segment. So it's not just our Category 1, 2, 3, 4, as we would expect. These different race fields engaging different race tactics at different times on this course and setting the fastest times, not as we would naturally consider to be due to those tactics.
So Category 1 the fastest, Category 4 the second fastest, and then the rest of the categories. So the riders just on their way through. We're watching this chase now in the Category 1 competition. Right hand side of your screen, we're with Mr. X100, the road captain for that UAE clan team, in the mix, chasing Rakad Al Thebe. That gap is still there and it has opened, but he's in sight. And the great phrase in cycling, it is out of sight is out of mind. So if you are racing around where we are currently in France at the Full Speed Events French studios, if you could get around the side of a little bit of woodland, drop down a descent, you can get clear. People won't see you. They don't know how much gap you've opened up, and that is what is key. Rakad Al Thebe continuing to try and push. 11, 12 seconds the gap at the moment. So at the moment he has got enough of the gap to be clear, but not enough of a gap to have lost them out of sight completely unless it twists and turns. And although we're coming into town, we're not yet at those junctions, but you can see the gap, it is opening out there, and he's continuing to push. He's setting a good pace here. Now if he blows, he's got a little bit of time. If he starts to struggle, he's got a little bit of time, but you can see by the scenery as we go through, we are about to exit the same point in the buildings, and the chase is being led by Mr. X100 once again. This is a rise here as you come in and through. We're going to go out of the shade and into the sunshine once again. Mr. X100 here sitting a consistent 5.5 to 5.7 watts per kilo here. He is being followed by Jakob Björklund, then it's Corby Price, Nicholas Spratt, Stefan Van Elst also doing the same, but they are leading a big pack of riders, and I think Rakad Al Thebe's days are numbered if the chasing group continue to maintain this pace. But this is a key moment, because if they don't continue this chase down, Rakad Al Thebe will take a little bit of heart from that and move on. So our riders on the way in through the segments. Remember, each of these segments, they are individually timed on the way through, and that gives us a real key indicator. At 13.5k, we've entered segment number 4. This is a 2.5k segment again. So this is one of our slightly longer segments. We've got segments of 1 kilometre, 2.5 kilometres, 4 kilometres, in fact 3.5 as well. So a real mix of distances. Category 1 into that segment. Long way down the road, though, they are still almost, that is 9k down the road. You can see the riders in category 4. And there's been a split in category 4 because we have the leader, and that is Novello, clear at the front. So that's going to be really interesting to see how that progresses as they lead clear of Rakad Al Thib, who himself is clear. And the chase has gone off the group behind. The chase was at 5.6, 5.7 watts per kilo from Mr. X100, but he was doing all the work. Now, those numbers are sub 4, Emma. Rakad Al Thib is continuing to push big numbers out, and the gap is opening.
Yeah, so Al Thib is indeed pushing numbers out there, Matt, and the gap has opened to just shy of 20 seconds. But do you know what? I think the Chase Pack are just hanging back and thinking that the 15-kilometre climb at the end of this race is going to be one that they can utilise to make the catch. Now, Al Thib has historically been a real attacker. I was trying to think of the words to use there. He really has attacked at the start of the racing and made some of the play very early on, but has often come back to the field, and the pack have made the catch. It would be really interesting if the gap Al Thib could put in was big enough to stay away, but with that distance of climbing and this quality of field today, I'm not sure he's going to stay out there.
No, I'd love for him to have go him into the climb, maybe a minute, minute and a half. But we're talking minutes, aren't we? Gaps of seconds are not enough coming into a Hawk category climb. You can lose so much time on a big climb. We see it in the Grand Tours, we see it in the UAE Tour when we go to things like the Jebel Hafid. You see it time and time again. Riders go in the men's and the women's racing, and they might have a lead of seconds, they might have a lead of minutes, and it's very rare that they can continue that on because they've gone out early and they've put a lot of energy in early. What will Rakad Al Thib do if he gets there early and he's still feeling good?
Well, at the moment, Matt, the gap is going out really, really quickly. He's now got over 30 seconds. The guys behind are going to have to do something really quick because I think otherwise there is a real danger that they could lose this win.
That they could lose the win. That is the best description of what they're doing at the moment. I think that it is dangerous, but I think I would be content to know that we have two opportunities here. We are currently at 15k of a 45k race, so we're a third of the distance in. We've still got what, in my mind, is about 7.5 to about 10k to run into the next climb, and that is the penultimate climb. So it's a climb, it's not categorized, but it is the biggest rise before we get to the Hawk category, the final climb of the day, and it's a bit of a nasty beast. I've ridden up this in Arabia and ridden up it in the world, and it is hard. It's not an easy climb, and it's one where you get a good indicator of who is riding well and who is on form, and it's a good point where they're going to be able to see how Rakad Al Thib is doing, and if he doesn't go up that well, that will let them just relax. If they get in there and they need to close big time down, they can do it on that climb and really put an effort in and not kill themselves completely before the finish.
Well, I think the other option, Matt, is the fact that Al Thib is an individual rider. He's not based in one of the teams today, and the team competition will be exceptionally competitive. And the fact that the pack may well have let Al Thib go down the road because he is an individual rider, and nothing that he does counts for the team competition. Now look at that segment number 4. So segment number 4 is a 2.5 kilometre segment. Al Thib setting the fastest time through there at 3 minutes 33 seconds. Now it's a 33-minute gap. A 33-second gap, sorry, back to the chasing pack of Category 1 riders. And you can see that, the pack going through all together there, but over half a minute behind Al Thib.
Yeah, It's a long way behind. 33 seconds to pull that out in 2.5K. That is showing just how hard that attack was and how big that push was. But now the rest of the group are looking at each other and just going, right, okay, what are we going to
Well,
do?
and I'll tell you what, Matt, going back further down the results of that segment, the Category 1 chase pack are moving pretty much not a lot quicker than the Category 2 race field. So the Category 2 race field about 5 seconds slower than the Category 1 pack. So Alfie will be catching the back of that Category 2 race. And it's really interesting to see that Category 1 pack not moving much faster through segment 4 than our Category 2 race field.
So the riders underway and out on the course, Jakob Bjorklund it is, who now decides to lift the pace. Are we going to start to see a response from these riders? Is this a move to try and pull back Rakad Al Thib, or is it just to break up the racing? It's been at a static pace for a while, and it's always dangerous when that happens. Instantly in pursuit, Stefan van Est. Then it's Philip Graves. Graves himself, usually one of the most aggressive riders, along with Fawcett from the squad. But it looks to me at the moment like that move from Bjorklund is going to be reabsorbed. Zach Nair, I tell you what, he's been hiding in this bunch. He's not doing a lot of work, isn't Zach, at the moment? He's just being careful. I'll tell you something, I'd like to see his power data from this. Oh, yeah. I'll tell you something, we'll probably be able to afterwards. Make sure you go follow Zach. He's got lots of great information. Emma would absolutely love it. As a stats and data person, she'll be in her element. I tell you, you two on a phone call, I'll go walk the dog or something. You'd be well away.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Martins is coming to the front of the group. Fawcett is there. Maglio, Spratt, Murphy, Vanden Eck, Safrazad, Vujasin, Popovic, SS. They are all rotating through the front of this group, but the pace has dropped off again a little bit. So that push on from Bjorklund from the Swedish Candy Canes hasn't stuck. The pack have all come back together again, and slowly the pack is starting to pick up the pace at the front again and try and catch Al Thib. Now, Al Thib, looking at this, is around 400 meters down the road from this chasing group, and he's doing a good job of stretching this Category 1 race field out.
And he does have the advantages. He's starting to catch riders. He's gone past Marcus Baltazar. His next target is going to be Cavallo and Milano, but they are currently about 25-30 seconds in front of him, and the squad are coming now. Has Mr. X100 put the word out? Because you can see Saeed Safrazad is right behind him here, so the teammate regular rider in there, but Saeed Safrazad can climb like there is no tomorrow. He really is a mountain goat, and surely you'll be saving riders. Popovic and Safrazad surely are the riders to save for the climb at the top, although Momentum Master Popovic hasn't got the dip and rise that you have on some of the other climbs and some of the other courses that he can use to his advantage. He's still a fantastic climber. So Category 1, lots of action with the chase on behind Rakad Al Thib on the left-hand side of your screen. They are at 19 kilometers, at 21 kilometers in a few seconds' time. This is the Category 2 competition. Now, we've been away from this group for a little while. It looks like they're all together being led through. We're in with Tom Gates here. Gates, regular competitor on MyWhoosh, a really great rider to follow. Again, another rider to jump on. Have a look on his YouTube channel. Have a look on his feed. Some great action from Tom Gates. Gates in Category number 2, and definitely a contender at the top if he gets his pacing right. But he is in amongst some really fast riders in there. Now, left-hand side of the screen, interestingly, Martin Martins has moved up to start putting in some work for Category 1. So whilst Category 2 are together, Category 1, I think, are now starting to get the act together. But the numbers keep yo-yoing up and down, and this is playing into the hands of Rakad Al Thib.
Well, it is, but Martin's part and parcel of that Belgian Waffles squad, and Belgian Waffles were indeed the second placed team in the January finals behind the UAE Clan team who took the win. So interesting to see the UAE Clan team and Belgian Waffles on the front of this chasing pack.
And I think the two teams at the moment are going to have to work together. I think what they're doing is they're both keeping the pace hot enough to not let him go too far down the road. See, Ricardo Thieves, he's hovering around about that 30-second mark. It yo-yos up and down. But if the teams hold him at that, they'll be confident that their climbers can pull that back. But you can see how fast they're moving. They are absolutely rocketing along. Moises Balthazar is a great category 2 rider. At the moment, just being overtaken, and he will want to try and jump in with this group and use this group to his advantage because he must surely feel that he's got the pace to be able to go with them. So, Mr. X100 leading this group once again as they come sweeping round this bend here. This long run through the marina, taking the run on to the bridge. You're going to see the slight rise come in. It's not a major climb, but it's enough of a rise to test our riders. They approach the half race distance, 20k covered of 45 kilometers of racing.
Yeah, and what's interesting, Matt, is that they've so far done 114 metres of climbing. Just to remind our viewers that there's 997 metres of climbing in this course today. So the best, as they say, is yet to come.
Well, we will see who will be the best of the best, because this is our Category 1 competition we're watching at the moment. At the moment, the best of the best is Rakad Al Theeb, who continues to try to keep this gap clear. Currently has extended it once again. He's continued to push and he's riding at tempo, but it's not a crazy fast speed and it's not crazy fast watts per kilo either, as behind it's 39 seconds that gap. So it's heading out for 2/3 of a minute. This chasing group about to catch Marcus Cavallo. They're the next rider in the sights of the riders here. They are closing down on Category 2 riders, as you would expect. But Rakad Al Theeb still clear at the front. Watching the heart rates, watching the revs. Rakad Al Theeb is working hard, but his heart rate is staying consistent. He knows exactly what he's doing with the amount of effort he's putting in, that's for sure.
It's a very managed effort that is underway by Al Theeb at the moment. It's a very steady chase at the moment as well. Nobody is really burning their matches until we get to that climb. I think Al Theeb is trying to leave some in the bank, even though he is pushing on, and the chase group are waiting. They are holding Al Theeb at a gap that they think is manageable until they hit the bottom of that climb. Now, that Hawk category climb, Matt, comes at 31 kilometers. So they are around just under 10 kilometers out from the start of the climb today. So at 31 kilometers, that 15k climb is the final part of this 45 kilometer course today. Now, 15 kilometers with an average gradient of 5.5%. And it is one of those climbs that there are no really steep sections on.
Unlike
Mount Pleasant, for example, on the Wollongong route, where we see the gradient kick over 17%. This is a long climb, but it's not a punchy climb.
Yeah, so we're talking Mount Pleasant to 3k in steps with a big descent in the middle, steep section 17%, at 11%. I think 11.5% is probably the steepest section we see on this climb, and there's very little descent at all. There's a short section, a couple of short sections where it maybe drops into sort of -1, 0.1, but it's hardly anything to write home. It will feel like a huge descent after climbing constantly, but it's not really a descent, and that is going to be very tense testing of the riders and their pacing. Now, Rakad Al Theeb, the leader in Category 1, right-hand side of your screen. Left-hand side is the chasing pack. It's loosely termed a chasing pack because I think that they are being very conservative in their chase. They are not wanting to close it down too much, but it is coming down. The distance is being brought down here, and it may well be that Rakad Al Theeb has decided enough is enough. He's not going to make the distance. Looking at those watts per kilo, he knows he's going to get caught. Here they come. So we are watching them come in and through. That group have gone over the top here. So now our big pack are together. Mr. X100 has gone through, and Rakad Al Theeb looks like he's out of the picture on the way through. So our riders are moving through, and I think this is going to be somebody different who's going to take it up as they go through. So has gone. The chasing pack now is the leading pack. This is our Category 1 leaders here on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club.
Yeah, and this is a big pack of Category 1 riders, Matt. 24 riders here in this group, and they are joined by 2 Category 2 riders and 1 Category 3 rider. You can see Parisi is the Category 3 rider at the back of that group, and just trying to take a bit of draft off of that large pack and hang in, covering the back of that group to get as much of a tow down this course as he can manage. Now, Knudsen is the rider pushing on at the front of this group with Vujasin and SS and Safrazad. Popovic is there too. The riders are taking turns on the front here, holding this pace at around 4 watts per kilo.
Interested to see Lucas Murphy in there. Boris Clark also hovering around the front, not putting too much energy in up at the very front of the race. 2 riders that now on to the platform, and of course we are expecting to see more and more riders. The platform ever changing and evolving and improving, and of course we've seen a massive evolution with the progression into the new world of Arabia. And the first version of this, if you go back a year, it's very different to this year's version. Meanwhile, right hand side, you can just see that Michael Suarez and his companion, the leaders in Category 4, currently at 30.5k. The leaders of Category 1, they're the last group to start, hit 24 kilometers and go through our next segment. And this is going to be really interesting, because if you had Rakat El Thib held out till this point, we'd have had a really nice snapshot of where he was. As it is, it's all going to come back together again. Knudsen, Van Elst, Price, Clark, Graves, Noren, Nair, Bjorklund, Vujasin, Panizzi. They're the top 10. Simmons and Van den Eekhout. They are in 11th and 12th places at the moment. Good to see Olivier Simmons back in again. Had the pleasure of getting beaten by Olivier Simmons in a race not all that long ago in the virtual world. He'd give me an even bigger beating now in the real world. I'm sure he could put out some massive watts, but we're looking at the times very close together on the way through segment number 5. And Emma, as they come out of segment number 5, we're now seeing Michael Knudsen starting to open this up. Lionel Vujasin has responded, and Vujasin has gone over the top. He answered that with a 9.5 watts per kilo kick. This is the big kick that takes our riders from the halfway point all the way through these tunnels. Now, this is a long, long climb. This climb takes us right the way up. So basically, we go through the undersea tunnel. We'll come out into an oasis where we will see daylight at the top. That is where the top of this climb is. It's in a knife edge summit, so the riders are no sooner up to the top than they will descend off the other side. And because of that, any gaps over the top of this part of the climb are decisive and very hard to close down. It takes a lot of energy to close them down as they go through.
Yeah, this is indeed the climb before our Hawk category climb today. So whilst not particularly steep, it is an area where we could see attacks coming, or we could see a stretch on the group. So we've still got 25 riders in this category 1 leading pack. Now, they are around 1.2 kilometers behind the leading group in the category 2 race, and around 6 kilometers gap between this category 1 pack and the leading riders on the road, who are currently the category 4 race leaders. Now, Parisi here has been doing a fantastic job covering the back of this group. This is the category 3 rider this group picked up not long ago, but I think the elastic may well be about to snap on this climb for Parisi, but doing an astounding job to hang on for as long as possible.
Come on, Eduardo, stay on that group. This is where it's hard. When you are on a fast section in a draft, lots of advantage. It's where you tend to find riders in a lower category can stay on board. When it hits the climb, it's all about who can kick out the best power to watts, and that's where the better category riders tend to shed the riders in those lower categories. However, doesn't mean that you haven't got a climber in there from a lower category who can climb. So it will be really interesting to watch that. Now, Category 1 leaders, left-hand side of your screen. Real battle in Category 2. They are the riders immediately in front at the moment, separated by less than a kilometre, about 900 metres, but both groups are on the climb. And that means that the distance between the riders has shortened, even though it is still the same time gap. That's just simple physics.
Yeah, but what's interesting, Matt, is both packs leading Category 1 and Category 2 are large packs. They still haven't whittled this down yet, and both race fields, I think, waiting until they get to that climb.
Yep, Category 2 looking like it had just started to thin a little bit as they come up towards the top. And certainly if I was in this Category 1, my tactics surely here have got to be go hard near the top, force some splits, break this group now, because if you break this group now, they're going to have to fight to come back, and that effort you put in is going to pay dividends. And I think it's Vujasin who's done just that. Look at this line of Vujasin, Michael Knudsen have got, and Phil Graves is coming along as well. 3 incredibly strong riders. Watch the damage it does. That group, that bunch is going to be a long line really quickly.
The damage it's done is our Category 3 rider Parisi has gone straight off the back of that group. He hung on for as long as possible, but I don't think he's the only rider about to go off the back of that group, as we're starting to see our Category 1 riders start to be shed from the group as well. That attack on the front from Vujasin is really making a difference.
Well, I'm just saying Bjorklund, I think, was distance behind. If we look behind Mr. X100 rather than in front, I think behind Mr. X100, he's looking back. We would see behind us a whole load of riders being distanced, and there's some big names starting to go. Mr. X100 just having to take a breather. Meanwhile, Tom Gates, as they come up this climb, is continuing to push now. He's gone over the top and they're on the descent. He's gone hard, and this group has broken. That is not as big as it was. Tom Gates has gone clear. He's on that 7%, but he's not going to hold them off. But I think he's done a lot of damage on the way through. This is the summit coming up. As you come out from the tunnels, you can see it on the map. This is the top of the climb for the Category 1 leading group, and they have dropped riders, but they've eased off maybe a little bit early, and it's going to allow a few riders back on.
Yeah, as they go through that banner. That banner is the start segment for segment number 6, but they have whittled it a little, Matt, but not much. We can just see a couple of Category 1 riders off the back of that group, but our main contenders are still in, and that's a huge group. Now, what is going to happen if this group is the same size when it catches that lead group in Category 2, which if it hasn't split apart in Category 2, we're going to have about 45 riders come together.
That would be very interesting when it hits the start of the main climb, because there's not much transition time from this descent into the climb. In fact, it's only a few hundred meters or so, and that's going to be really, really telling as you come in. So this on the descent is a little bit of a rise and drop now. Mr. X100 at the moment in there. Who have we lost off the back, Emma?
It is Lucas Murphy who's the rider off the back, and I think there's a bit of a chase by Murphy to try and get back on as we switch to our Category 3 race. And in fact, our Category 3 leader on the climb now, and pushing on past our Category 4 leader Suarez. So Cusmano now leader on the road.
So Paolo Cusmano leading the race, and Michael Suarez leading Category 4, but it's our Category 3 leader Cusmano who is leading on the climb. Now, it's a long way to our summit. Remember, this is a race which finishes at the 45-kilometer marker. And as we go up on to the climb, the lead of Category 3 catching the lead of Category 4. That means that Cusmano has made a 5-minute close down. 5-minute close down on the riders in front. That is a good move by him. Meanwhile, behind him, not all that far behind, it looks like the two chasers about 25 seconds down. Dazzling a little bit further down at riders all over the road.
They are indeed all over the road. They are well and truly on that climb. Our Category 3 and Category 4 riders and battling it out on those slopes. A little bit further back, still around 2 kilometres off of the base of the climb, is our lead group in that Category 1 race. It is still a large group of riders, just over 20 riders. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that must be Lucas Murphy about to put the catch into the back of that group and make closure to it. So I think nearly, look at that. God, make that. I'm willing that blob on the right hand top corner of the screen to catch on. And he has indeed. So we've now got 2 large groups. So our Category 1 riders leading the pack on the left-hand side of your screen. Our Category 2 riders, the lead pack in that race field on the right-hand side of your screen, and around 900 metres now separating these 2 large groups of riders.
So Category 1 closing in on Category 2, riding with Mr. X100 in Category 1 with Tom Gates in Category 2. And as we drop in to our Category 1 riders as they make their way around these turns, you can see the mountain in front. Yep, folks, we're going up to the top of that. That is what is going to hurt these riders, and they know that this is going to be a tough finish. Anyone who's ridden on the platform and ridden up to the top of this hill, as we have here in the commentary team, will know just how tough this is. It is a real replication of the roads out in the United Arab Emirates, and this will test our riders no matter how world class you are. It tests the best in the world time and time again, and this is where we're going to see the decisive moves of this race being made in Category 1 and 2. Category 1 is closing on Category 2, and this is a real danger moment for the riders in Category 1, because whilst they're all closing, it's who can go through the gap and who can make the most of this.
Well, I'll give you an indication of how steady this pace is for these Category 1 riders at the moment. We've just been in with Michael Knudsen, whose heart rate was 154. We've seen Knudsen's heart rate go to 203.
Wow.
That's a lot of range left. Phil Graves at the moment currently sat at 129 beats per minute. Again, I've taken a little look through. Can I see what we've seen his? Oh, she says, I'm trying to find it. I don't think I've got it in front of me. But what we do have in front of us is segment number 6. So the Norren, Spratt, SS, Clarkson, Asker, Van Elsve, Jasin, Van den Eckhout, Safrazad, Nair, Mr. X100 and Knudsen, the top 12 riders going through. But it is indeed Norren who puts the fastest time through that segment in 4 minutes 31 seconds. 3 seconds back, Spratt, SS, Clark and Zanaska. So a little bit of difference separating that group going through, but and interesting to see our Category 1 riders are indeed the riders who are going through the fastest through that segment. Now I'm taking a little bit of a scroll through back just to take a look at the time gaps between them and our other categories.
So our leaders now on to the climb. They've hit the base of the climb and on to the ascent we go. Now this is where we're going to see the sort out, Emma. This is where we're going to see the moves, because this is where the real legs do the talking. There's no false kicks here, because the riders know this is the run for the top. This was one big blob. It is stringing out left-hand side of your screen. The leaders in Category 1. Are we going to see a big group go up this climb? The answer is going to be no. We're already seeing riders detached off the number 1 category. Category 1, they are starting to shed riders. Category 2, further up the row, 500 meters or so, also shedding. Category 2 as well. The riders starting to be distanced, big distances, big gaps opening. Who's going to close this down? We're on that final climb.
Well, closing it down, as we saw through segment number 6, is our leading pack in the Category 1 race, already catching it before the climb. Category 2s, 3s and 4 riders on the road. Now we are looking and seeing the climbs causing these groups to come even closer together, with now 600 meters separating Category 1 and Category 2 race fields. Not much further down the road, in fact around 2.8 kilometers down the road, are our lead riders on the race route today. That indeed is our Category 3 race leaders who have already gone past our Category 4 race leaders. Who is the first category to start today?
Indeed. Now, in Category 4, we're just starting to see 3 riders in. We're starting to see our climbers come in and through and catch. In Category 3, you're seeing a much bigger group. There are 5 riders in Category 3 in contention at the moment, with 5 prizes there on the right-hand side of your screen. Demanuan in there, Duque, Phillips in there, looks like Kusamana and co just closing in. Those are your 5 riders there, left-hand side of your screen. This is the lead in Category 1. Lionel Vujasin pushing on up this climb. They're going to close in on Orego. Orego, if he had rear view mirrors in that helmet, he is going to see the chasers coming, and the chasers a big yellow pack. It's dropping rider by rider as they come up here, but it's still a big group who's going to make the catch here. So Vujasin, Safrazad, Vanaska, Van den Eekhout, Mr. X100, Zachner, all in the front of this pack. And you can see as they come through the next groups of riders, Cameron Dadson, I think, being absorbed in and through that group. But we've got all of our big climbers in this group. Michael Knudsen, Lucas Zanaska in here. Saeed Safrazad looks like Van den Eekhout is tucked in here. Ross Fawcett, another good ride. Martin Martin's in here. But it's Vujasin who is setting the pace on the front at the moment. He's continuing to kick up here and again starts to open up a little bit of a gap. And is that Vujasin or is that Knudsen who's got it? It's Knudsen who's gone over the top now. He's gone over the top of Vujasin, and this really is doing some damage because we are seeing an increased pace here as we see Vujasin and Knudsen together.
Well, I'll tell you who else is there, and that's Martin Martins, because he's pushing on as well, and that man has got some form at the moment. So has Nair and Safrazad, because they are all pushing at the front of this pack. And look at the damage being done to what was a group of 24 Category 1 riders who came in at the base of this climb. We've now got Vujasin, Safrazad, Nair and Fawcett with Martins at the front of this pack. Now Ross Fawcett has put in top 10 positions this month and has been coming really onto form, so it's going to be interesting to see what he can do as well today. But Noren now coming to the front of that group.
And Johan Noren is another great rider, both in the virtual world and out in the fresh air too. So going to be interested to see what he does on this climb. And again, another rider who's improving on the platform on MyWhoosh here on the Sunday Race Club. We've had the pleasure of watching that improvement, but we are now into the final few kilometers. We have already covered 33.3k for our Category 1 leaders. Meanwhile, Hassan Al Ramethri is up the road for Category 2. Looks like I'm never going to hear the end of Emma telling us that it could be his big climb here. I expect to see that coming back at me in commentary next week for the first of our qualifiers who can go into March. But he's still got a long way to go. Come on, Hassan.
He has got a long way.
It's worth the stick to see a solo rider going and getting all brave and going clear. But do you know what? That's a big group behind him.
He's only got 5 seconds. It must just literally have been him putting in that attack to that group. And it's still a very big Category 2 group on that mountain today. And some absolutely class riders in that pack. So at the moment in that Category 2 race, I don't think that's been decided. But take a look at this. You can see now this Category 1 pack coming around the climb, and they've spotted that Category 2 pack in front of them. This, Matt, is gonna get messy, and if I was one of these riders, this is where I'd be putting in an attack.
Well, as they come up onto the back of this pack, this is where you need to be on the front. And look at the experienced riders here. Martin Martins, Zach Nair, Lucas Zanaska, Stefan Van Els. They are all moving up. They know that they're coming into a group of riders, and they're using that experience. They have moved to the front. We're in with Martin Martins. Martins now starting to work his way through. He gets that added benefit of that extra draft as he goes through those riders. He's got behind him Knudsen. Are they going to use this as a springboard to bounce clear of the group. It's almost like you come sprinting in, then you hit the bounce, the trampoline effect, and it springs you even further ahead. But there has been a response, and they are coming. And I tell you something, the pace that they're coming, it has almost caused Hassan Al-Rumethri to lose his lead as the Category 2 riders try and stay with Category 1. Hassan knows they're coming. I think I've just seen him dip and then wind up. He wants to jump into this express train too. Here comes the pack. Hassan Al-Rumethri is absorbed by the group of Category 2 riders, and they now need to do a regroup. Carnage, bodies everywhere. We're a long way up. We're heading into altitude, but I tell you something, these guys have to stay switched on. They can't allow their brains any kind of oxygen deck because they've got to be thinking all the time.
Yeah, they have got to be thinking all the time and watching what's going on, not just in their own race field, but in other race fields too. Because Angarita, Abello, and Ospina have been able to jump on the back of that Category 1 pack, and they've timed that, then they've timed their effort to stay there. Now, the Category 1 race field themselves have lost some riders, but not a large amount. I'm trying to do a very quick count, but we are just over 10 kilometers from the finish, and this is very much a mixed pack of riders now. Category 1 riders and Category 2 riders pushing on up round this bend.
Well, I make our Category 1 riders about 10, 11 riders in that group, or were, because they've just lost another one off the front this time. And it looks to me like at the back, Mr. X100 and SS have been a distance from the front group. At the front, though, Martin Martins is going clear at the front of the Category 1 race. He's got a gap on Vujasin. It's Martin Martins on the left-hand side of your screens off the front. Mr. X100 here, I think he's towing SS up the climb. He's aware that they need to bring bodies up for the team competition. So Martins goes past Goldburn, but look at Michael Knudsen. He's suddenly got wings on his heels here because he has suddenly flown across to Martins like that gap wasn't there. We're on a 7% slope, and he's now dragged up Said Safrazad, Lionel Vujasin, Zagner, and Pablo Popovic. I tell you something, Popovic is playing this very coolly at the moment. He's there or thereabouts. He's not put too much in. Is he going to be able to stay with these leaders all the way through to the finish? We've seen him sprint and roll people, but he's got some exalted company to hold on to.
Well, I think this is going to be a very exciting final 10 kilometres of this race today, because Knudsen, Martins, Vujasin, Safrazad, Van den Eckhout and Nair are all on form at the moment, but they're not the only ones, because Popovic has just pushed on and joined them as well.
So left-hand side of your screen's Category 1, starting to see our big favourites come up to the front. Right-hand side of your screen, these are the leaders on the road. They are 1.5 kilometres down the road, or up the road to be more correct, and that is Cusimano, who's leading from Gil, Phillips, Duque de Manuan in there as well. Looks like it's a little bit further back to the next group of riders, but this is 6 riders who are all together as they come up in the front of the race, but they are being closed down with the leading rider in Category 1, Michael Knudsen, currently up to 17th now. Let's make that 16th position as they go past another of our riders, and it's going to be a very, very quick ascent here by the leaders in Category 1. Fast times expected today on the racing on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. The February finals, our qualifiers running through to the penultimate weekend. The last weekend in the month is always our prize money finals. And remember, the finals include our team prize competition as well as our prizes for the individual riders, which has an added dimension, and that is why we're seeing riders maybe out of the prize money individually really pushing on. Mr. X100 continuing to push to try and bring the UAE clan team into that prize money mix. Corby Price continuing to push for the cooked cookies on the way up. Remember, it's Clark, Price and Murphy in that team, but all these riders know that everything counts now. Now, interestingly, Mauricio Lopez, Dexter Abello, and Felipe Tortoretto are in this group here. But Mr. X100 just continues to push on. Corby Price immediately behind him. And they are fighting for that team competition. I think this is going to be really key in that.
Well, what you have to remember is we've seen X100 distance from the pack on these types of climbs before because he can't go with the lifted pace. He's a rider who's got a very strong 20-minute pace, but not a very strong 1-minute pace, or even 30 seconds like we see on some of the other riders attacking. But what it does mean is X100 is able to pick his own pace once he's distanced from the group and time trial the rest of the climb. And we have seen that ability when the front of the race plays cat and mouse with each other for X100 to catch onto the back of the group just by riding his own race and his own steady pace up that climb. Be interesting to see what happens today.
Well, Corby Price is sitting with him at the moment as we see Mr. X100 go into the next of our segments. This is our final segment, which will run right the way to 41.5, so it finishes just before the summit, segment number 7. Corby Price and Mr. X100 currently chasing then Ross Fawcett in terms of category 1, but the very front is this pack who are back together now. Tight left hand turn coming up as we go through this full 180 degrees. There'll be a massive drop down on their left hand side as they come around here because they climb the height incredibly quickly here on the mountain. We're just running in with Saeed Safrazad at the moment. 400 watts coming out from Saeed Safrazad there as he tries to jump in with the group as it starts to accelerate. Nobody wants to be distanced, but it's Martins who is pushing on at the front at the moment at 7.3 watts per kilo, and Knudsen is having to answer him. Knudsen without a helmet on the right hand side. He's continuing to push. Saeed Safrazad is the rider with the white cap with the green stripe down the middle of it, who is pushing, and then you can just see Martins with that white helmet to the left hand side of the screen just diving off the side. But that pack is coming and they are on the way. But can Knudsen now break clear? Saeed Safrazad has marked this move. Zach Nair needs to move up quickly here. He's got Lionel Vajassin and Martin Martins for company. This group know that there are 5 prizes in each of our categories. That first, second, third, fourth and fifth places will be taking home big prize money here on MyWhoosh on the Sunday Race Club. But we've also got that mix in the mix. It is those ingredients that always spice things up. It is, of course, our team competition, and the top 5 teams, the best 3 riders counting, is going to be very, very critical as well. So Knudsen at the moment leading out up here. Remember, of course, Knudsen in and riding. He is a rider who rides for the UAE clan team. He's got Saeed Safrazad with him, his teammate Pablo Popovic, looking pretty good here as well, just making his way up. That means there are 3 riders from the UAE clan team in the top 4.
Yeah, there are indeed. So 10 riders were in this category 1 group before we saw this attack. We've got Knudsen, Vujassin, Safrazad and Popovic, and then a gap now of 5 seconds back to Martins and the rest of the group. So 4 riders clear, 6 riders in the chase group, and they are pushing on strongly. Now, if you want to join the Sunday Race Club, next month is a really good month to start. 3 qualifiers in March before the final, but back to the final in February, and the attack is going again. But we are watching these riders, and these are the chasing riders: Fawcett, X100 and Price. In fact, X100 and Price are coming up onto the back wheel of Fawcett. These are 3 chasing riders in this category 1 race.
And they're doing exactly what you said, Emma. They are sitting at a pace and they are closing down riders. They're going to close down on Ross Fawcett here. So Mr. X100 and Corby Price are closing on Ross Fawcett. And that means that Fawcett is going to see them. Remember, Phil Graves, Ross Fawcett and Ollie Jones are racing for the Sticky Bun Club team. They are going to be looking to try and take this out. But at the moment, they are seeing that Mr. X100 and Corby Price are on the way up. And Mr. X100, really interested. He knows he's got his teammates up the road, but he's not backing off here. He's continuing to put that pace in because he knows you can't afford to sit back. What happens if one of them suffers a blowout, where one of them snaps a chain, anything like that? Now, just seeing our leading riders come up and through now, this is going to be the lead of category for being caught and passed by the leaders of Category 1. So Kalangad along with Restrepo, and I think it's Duque, just been overtaken by Vujassin, Nussin, Popovic, Safrazad and Martins. The 5 leading riders all together in Category 1, steadily snaffling up the breadcrumbs that are the riders left on the course in front as they try to get to the top of this mountain first, and of course take away the top positions. But we have 5 riders, 5 prizes. These guys will all want to stay clear to take away the prize money, and of course they want to take away the victory. Really important to take those scalps. And remember, of course, the MyWhoosh Championships, they've been postponed by 1 month, pushed back, just so that we can bring even better racing.
Yeah, so 300 metres down the road are the leading riders on the course at the moment, and that is the lead group in the Category 3 race. Now, 6 riders in that Category 3 race leading group, behind 5 riders in the Category 1 race leading group. And that is going to come together very, very shortly as we just drop back down, because X100 and Fawcett have now moved away from Price. They are continuing to time trial their way up this mountain, and the next rider in front of them is going to be Van den Eckhart.
And really interesting. So Corby Price was hanging on to Mr. X100. Corby Price had got that effort. He was hanging on in there. The pace of Mr. X100, he could hold it for so long. Now Mr. X100's got Ross Fawcett. Fawcett will hold him for a while, but we know that Mr. X100 is sitting at a really good pace here. So whilst he didn't have that initial kick that he said, he's been able to move through, and he's going to keep on trying to work. But Bart Van den Eckhart is no bad climber at all, and we know he can push. They've also got Mark Dadson in front, and again, the rider who we talked about earlier in the show, another rider who we know will go early, but starts to get close down. In fact, left-hand side of your screen, there's Bart Van den Eckhart. He's the next target. He's slicing his way through and has in fact just passed the leaders in the Category 4 competition. And they're doing this, let's face it, in the last 7K of a 45K race. So we are seeing the leading riders, the leading protagonists in each of our categories, all within the last 6-7K of the summit. Great to see these riders battling it out. And in fact, Mr. X100 is not that far behind, but we are up with our leaders, and they are our leaders on the road, because the Category 1 leaders have just caught and passed the Category 2 leaders out there. Sorry, Category 3 leaders out there. Category 2 went by a little while ago. So Duque de Manuan along with all of the leading group of Category 3 being passed by Michael Knudsen, Saeed Safrazad, Lionel Vujassin, Martin Martins and Pablo Popovic. That is the front of the race. It's the front of Category 1. It's on the left-hand side of your screens. Right-hand side, Mr. X100 still continuing to chase his way up, steadily gaining ground, and it looks like, I think he's just dropped Ross Fawcett off his wheel. So continuing to push his way back up and in, chasing Van den Eckhart, Noren and Nair. Meanwhile, Safrazad and Knudsen, they're up at the front.
They are indeed up at the front, Safrazad and Knudsen. Now, in the January final, which was also in Arabia, it was Safrazad 1 and Knudsen 2, Popovic 3, Vujassin 4 and Martins 5. Now, take a look who's in the top 5 again, Matt. So Safrazad, Knudsen, Martins, Vujassin and Popovic. They are the riders who do like this course. They like this 15-kilometre climb at the end. It's the same top 5 as the January finals so far on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. Will it be the same finishing order, or have the riders got a different plan? Safrazad and Knudsen are the 2 pushing on, and you know what? They have distanced Vujassin, Popovic and Martins. It's now a 2-man breakaway with 3 riders chasing.
Well, I thought it was really interesting the fact that the form book is it really is going to the form book, and some courses suit some riders. It's not just physically, it's also mentally. If you have a good ride on a course, you tend to go back and ride well on that same course time and time again. But Van den Eyck is about to suffer that same fate because if I'm thinking back to a year ago and commentating on the big long final climb a year ago, Mr. X100 again always puts in a good ride on the big climbs. He's not necessarily right at the front, but he accelerates through that field, and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing the same with our two leaders, Saeed Safrazad along with Michael Knudsen, the dynamic duo leading the race out once again. Martins, Vujassin and Popovic are the ones left fighting. But remember what happened. What was the actual orders that came through the finish last time?
Safrazad, Knudsen, Popovic, Vujassin, Martins.
Now it's Martins, Vujassin, Popovic. Popovic at the back of that group of 5. But Popovic does this by riding smart. He always comes through. He's one of those riders who only seems to make his last effort right on the line. I mean, literally in the last centimetres, he gets through. And whether that's just the momentum on certain courses, but it's also about the ability to ride smart.
I don't know about momentum. Popovic can put 12, 14 watts per kilo out at the end of a climb for a sprint finish. I mean, most people, they get to the top, the lactic acid is burning in their legs, but not Popovic. He can still find a little kick at the top of a climb, and it's often that takes him over the top of the rider in front. So Safrazad in 1, Knudsen in 2. We've then got Vujassin in 3, Martins in 4, Popovic in 5. The first 2 of those 5 riders are 8 seconds down the road with the chasing pack of 3, and we're currently in with that chasing pack. They can just see those 2 riders, Knudsen and Safrazad, go round the bend in front of them. They are not out of sight and not out of mind.
Definitely not now. Knudsen continues to push 7.6 watts per kilo, answered by Safrazad here. 8 watts per kilo coming from him. Bit further back, we're with Popovic, Martins as well as Vujassin. They are all together. So 2 leading, 3 chasing. 10 seconds between them. We are going to be coming up now to the end of this segment, and this will be telling in terms of the time gaps as they come in and through. So as we come through the top there, the fastest times through go to Knudsen and Safrazad. The distance behind, well, that gap is going to be to these 3 chasers, and it is as predicted about 10 seconds further back. So 43 rather than 33 for Martins, Popovic and Vujassin, as the rest of the riders chase the way up this hillside. So fantastic riding on the way through. And interestingly, just watching the pacing here of Mr. X100, who we're following up this hillside, making his way through the riders. He's up to 14th place in the race overall. I think that's shortly to become what is potentially 12th place. He's on his way in to this same gantry. So he's not that far behind the riders. They are really pushing on here.
Yeah, and this time trial pace has served X100 well in the past, and it is serving him well today, because the next rider in front of him is Johan Noren. So let's take a little run through, shall we? So Knudsen in 1, Safrazad in 2. This is through segment number 7. Martin sets the 3rd fastest time, followed by Popovic, Vujassin, X100 there. Van Elst, Nares, Anaska, Noren. So X100 closing in, as we said, on Noren. Noren is further up the road than X100, but X100 setting a faster time and moving through that field.
In fact, faster time than Van Elst, who is still to catch, Nares, Naska and Noren. They're all riders in front of him on the course, riders who he's closing down at a substantial margin. So let's keep our eye on that in the background. However, to the front of the race, Michael Knudsen and Saeed Safrazad are holding a gap of 9 to 10 seconds. We've seen it down to 8, we've seen it up to 10, but Knudsen along with Safrazad are there. You can see their dots center of the map on the screen. You can just about make out, hovering on the edge of the screen, the yellow dot that is the chasing group behind. And these 2 riders are taking it turn and turn about, but look at the groups behind. They are breaking all over the road. And Mr. X100 is coming up on Johan Noren now. So he's up on to Noren. That means he's going to be in to ninth place. He's got Zanaska in eighth place in his sights. And now Noren is seeing the train coming. He's jumping on and hanging on to stay with him, because this is going to bring it together. And the duo in front, he's catching Zanaska. That's Nair and Van Elst in front of him.
Well, if Zanaska, X100 and Noren can work together, these three could indeed come back to Van Elst and Nair and form a group of 5 on the road. And then that is going to be a storming group of 5, because 5 riders are far more motivated than one individual rider tapping along. And X100 could well be lighting this race up now, not just by the ride he's doing himself, but by the riders he may well be towing up this mountain with him.
Well, they've got to stay with him, and that's no mean feat. He's on the right-hand side of your screens. It's only about 300 meters in front is the race lead. That's Saeed Safrazad and Michael Knudsen. Sandwiched in between our two screens are a number of riders: Vujasin Popovic, Martins, Van Elst, Nair. In that gap, they are being closed down by Mr. X100, who is working his way up here. Hit the initial kick at the base of the climb. Too much, that maximum watts per kilo. That break happened, and now the chase is on. So you can see the leaders left-hand side of your screen: Saeed Safrazad and Michael Knudsen. Knudsen without a helmet, Saeed Safrazad with the white on his head there. You can see the white bike, white socks. That's Knudsen. The yellow socks and shoes, that is going to be Safrazad. There on the left-hand side of your screen. Right-hand side of your screen, Lionel Vujasin opening up, white socks, yellow jersey, and then the white helmet. Then in the UAE team kit at the moment, that is going to be Pablo Popovic. Martin Martins on the right there as well.
Do you know that gap's coming down, I think, Matt, because that's less than 100 meters separating those groups, and not much further back now. X100 is only 3 seconds off the wheels of Nair and Van Elst. Noren is with him. Zanaska's not been able to go with X100, but Noren has. So that is X100 and Noren coming up onto the wheels of Nair and Van Elst.
So Stefan Van Elst from Belgium. You've got Zach Nair from the United States of America. You've got Johan Noren from Sweden up in the mix. Mr. X100 from the UAE in the mix. So just ahead of Zanaska from Italy. They're looking very good at the moment, but you can see the pace here now. Nair and Van Elst surely can go with Mr. X100 at this pace. What have they got left in the tank? Can they pull themselves up to the group in front? Popovic, Vujasin and Martins are the next target for this chase down on the way through. Now, there is a risk here, and it's a big, big risk, because the riders that Mr. X100 is towing up here are competitors for the team prize.
They are.
Zach Nair, Johan Noren, and Stefan Van Elst are riders who could take away the UAE Clan team prizes.
Let's put it this way, Matt. Zanaska, Nair and Noren are all on the same team. They are all on the Italian Gelato team. So that is 3 teammates X100 is towing up.
And he's towing them up to Popovic, who is his teammate, and then Martins and Vujasin, who are their teammates. That doesn't make sense to me, because you've got Knudsen and Safrazad on the front and Popovic in 4th place. This is a guaranteed win if he does not take them up. If he takes them up, they're going to risk losing that team prize, and that's going to be all done in the next 3.5K. It's coming down like there is no tomorrow.
Well, Knudsen and Safrazad are now coming up to 800 meters away from the finish gantry at the top of this climb. They are neck and neck, wheel and wheel together as they continue to trade places on this climb.
So on their way in to the finish here, it's going to be interesting to see who takes this out.
Well, Nair and Van Elst have taken up the running, and X100 is letting them do the towing. So Nair, Van Elst, X100 and Noren are now moving up. They are around 30 seconds back from Popovic and Vujasin. So this chase is all on, but I think they are going to come out of road.
So here we go. The turn comes. This is Vujasin coming round that turn. The riders are in front. They are 6 seconds in front. The distance is coming down. There's not a lot of ground here, and he can see them. Vujasin is coming at them. This is going to be a nail-biting finish as we come in here to the finish here. Let's see who's going to take this out. Vujasin is chasing hard. Emma reckons they're going to run out of road. I'm not so sure. Safrazad is behind Knudsen, and now they're just going to take a little bit of look. Safrazad's seen them coming. Safrazad goes hard here. It's only a second behind the gantry. It's not that far off. Vujasin has come, but they have responded to this. And I think Safrazad and Knudsen have just about done enough. It's a one-on-one sprint here. Saeed Safrazad leading this out. Michael Knudsen comes behind, but Saeed Safrazad comes through. He takes the win. It's Michael Knudsen in two. It's going to be a third place for Lionel Vujasin. If he can hold off Pablo Popovic, which he does, then it's going to be Martin. Martin's behind. Oh, look at him labouring up there. 67 revs per minute. He wants to stay clear of Van Elst. I think he's going to do that to round out the top five. So your top four riders, Safrazad, Knudsen, Vujasin, Popovic, and it's going to be Martin Martins to round out your top five on our February finals on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. What a result. Emma, how does that match up to last time by any chance?
Oh, it's slightly different. So the same 5 riders who took the top 5 positions in our January finals, but just in a different order. Saeed Safrazad takes it in 1 second from Knudsen, from Vujasin, from Popovic, and from Martins. As we see the next riders coming through, and Nair comes through to take 6th place. X100 has pushed on and is looking like he's going to take 7th. Noren is the rider behind with Zanaska, so X100 almost coming to a standstill when he crossed that line. The work and the effort to come up and through on that time trial for him.
Yeah, Zach Nair was caught by Mr. X100. He responded and pushed on. Noren just distanced on the way through, 4 seconds back on the way through. Just looking at the results there, I think the Clan team are going to take top spot in our team competition. Belgian Waffles taking the 2nd place almost certainly on the way through there. Remember, all the results subject to verification. Then it's going to be Lucas Anaska who comes in and through. Then it's going to be Kusamana. Kusamana goes in ahead of Duque. Great result there for the riders there in blue. Mixing it up with our riders in yellow. Category 3 riders right in at the finish. Great ride by Bart van den Eekhout. And I think Ross Fawcett on an absolute flyer here today as well. Another good ride by him. He's ahead of Corby Price, who's about 30 seconds down. So battles in all of our race categories here on our February finals with Ross Fawcett in and through the line. Let's take a look at our top 12 riders on the climb. Safrazad, Knudsen, Vujasin, your 1, 2, 3, with Popovic and Martins rounding out the top 5. Van Elst in 6th, Zach Nair takes 7th place, Mr. X100 in 8th, Johan Noren in 9th, Lucas Naska in 10th, Bart van den Eekhout in 11th, and Ross Fawcett in 12th place. Don't forget, all of these results will be unofficial until verified, as you would expect. The fantastic verification system here on MyWhoosh, checking out our riders. Now, we have had a fantastic race. All these results will be up on that mywhoosh.com website, where you can pick up the rest of the results on there online. Don't forget, of course, we're back again next week. It's the very first of our qualifiers for March, and our riders will be looking to get more racing done on the platform. It's been a pleasure having Emma in the studio here with me once again. Emma, where can we find you on the social media and on the internet?
Yeah, so you can find me at Biking Emma on Instagram, or you can find us at Full Speed Events. Please get in touch if you are looking to join those qualifiers in March, and tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Yep, the more information we have, the more we can talk about you. That's how it works. It's really straightforward. It's always great to hear from our riders. Don't forget, of course, you can get hold of me. It's at Matt Fix Alexa Payne, and I'll be here on the Sunday Race Club with Emma again next week. A massive thank you to our riders. A big thank you to all of the team behind the scenes at MyWhoosh. Don't forget, of course, subscribe to the YouTube button. Make sure you hit all those social media platforms. Looking forward to seeing what the riders had to say about today's racing on the Facebook pages as well. So from Emma, from myself, and Matt Payne, from all of the team at MyWhoosh and our fantastic competitors, have a great week. We'll see you again soon. Bye bye.
Goodbye.